we should expect this. But this is a good sign because if it goes up very quickly and it finds all the food it can find, it will also rapidly decelerate.
Health Chief Francisco Duque III is looking at the possibility of a local transmission of the Omicron variant.
The fact that there are local cases, those local cases would have not happened kung wala pang transmission. So I would assume that the local transmission is already there.
The emergence of the Omicron COVID variant could signal a possible end to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to one expert.
The Omicron infection actually gave them antibodies that protected them not only against Omicron, but against Delta, Gamma, Beta, Alpha.
Government is putting more areas under high alert levels and granular lockdowns with the continued rise of COVID-19 cases. What are the urgent measures to prevent further transmission? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to the midweek edition of The Chiefs. I'm Ed Lingao. Also with us, Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Luchi Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. Ladies, happy midweek.
Hi.
Good evening.
Should I bother to ask you what your big story is today or is it a foregone conclusion?
Yun na yun
Alam na nating lahat. Pero ngayon yung di ba? Yung hulihan talaga ng mga sumasakay na unvaccinated. Talagang nagmo-monitor na strictly, no? At medyo nakakaawa in a way.
Yung mga hindi nagpapakuna.
That's what we're here to discuss, no?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Tsaka si Presidente na nagsabi, di ba? Bawal lumabas.
But also more
good news naman, magkakaroon na daw uli ng paracetamol supply within a few days.
Okay.
That's also true.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, paracetamol is just for relief of pain and swelling. It's not really a cure. So people might end up rushing to the drugstore to get pain relief and end up getting COVID. They might just end up getting COVID instead. Diba?
Bababa nila yung fever nila.
So yeah, but these are symptoms eh. In the end, you're talking about symptoms, relief from symptoms. They're not relief from the disease eh. So kailangan timbangin yung risk versus yung benefit.
Niro-rule out nila yung ordinary kasi kaya gano'n.
Hindi, kasi baka flu lang, Ed. Marami rin namang flu lang eh. So kailangan mo talagang bigyan ng lunas yun, di ba? Yung fever, headache. Hirap kaya matulog pag masakit ulo mo.
Well, ganun din naman yun sa COVID eh. It's
No,
also viral.
but you get relief where you can.
Okay. Good point. Okay, I will not argue that point. That's a good point. Okay, we begin tonight with Undersecretary Epimaco Densing of the Department of Interior and Local Government. We want to talk to Yusek Densing about a lot of things, a range of measures that government may have to put in place or may be thinking of putting in place, considering all these things that are facing us this week and possibly the next few weeks. Yusek Densing, maraming salamat for joining us tonight and welcome back.
Good evening, Yusek.
Good evening. Happy New Year, Yusek.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year po.
Kay Robbie, get well soon.
Well, si Robby naghanap ata ng paracetamol.
Padala na natin.
Yusek, let me start off with an interview we had last night with the contact tracing czar, si Mayor Benjamin Magalong ng Baguio, and he mentioned something that did raise a bit of concern among many of us. Ang sabi niya kasi kahapon o kagabi, nag-expire na yung contact tracing contracts last year pa. And ang pera for contact tracing ng DILG, baka ma-release pa ng February. So in between kanya-kanyang LGU muna maghanap ng contact tracers o kaya hoping on volunteers, the volunteer spirit na may magtrabaho ng walang bayad. Can we ask po muna the DILG, what's the story there with the DILG contact tracers? I think there are 15,000 at least. And what's the latest there?
Well, ang latest, Ed, is our budget was not given as we wanted it to be. We requested initially for 5 billion, then this was cut to 2. Then we were told that the Senate approved 1, but after the bicameral conference committee and when the GAA was eventually signed, only 250 million was allotted for the renewal of our contact tracers. And this is equivalent to only 1,000 contact tracers for a 1-year contract, no? So that's what we're doing right now is really most probably can change it to scale it down to 6 months contract so so that we can have more contact tracers given the 250 million budget that was given to us by Congress, by the law. No, problema kami ngayon sa number of contact tracers and kasi ang nangyari yata noon at the time when the GAA was being signed pakonti yung kaso sa akala nila dire-diretso siguro hindi na kailangan yung contact tracers and we said that this COVID thing will go through the whole of 2022 kaya nga ginawa na namin 1 year yung contract nila instead of 6 months. So we're trying to redo our finances and hopefully we can have more.
Yes, sir.
Tupad naman, yung from DOLE, nagbigay ng additional 1 month sa mga tupad contact tracers.
Yes, sir. Sir, but that's as far as the amount is concerned. But what about the timing? What about the timing itself? Kasi ang sabi nga ni Mayor Magalong, baka Pebrero pa, baka end of February pa nga, lumabas yung pera from DBM. So in between now and middle to end February, that's around almost 2 months, kasagsagan pa yan, baka kasagsagan pa yan ng Omicron surge.
Yung mga LGUs naman, meron silang local contact tracers, locally hired contact tracers. We just ask them to, of course, renew their locally hired contact tracers and hopefully they can have more for the next 30 days. May budget naman yung local natin considering that, of course, they have more budgets right now because of the increased national tax allotment for local government.
Sa Mandanas ruling.
Yes, correct.
Well, in the meantime, inutusan ni President Duterte yung mga barangay captains na pangunahan daw yung pag-inspeksyon kung sino yung unvaccinated within their jurisdictions. Ano ba exactly gagawin nito mga to para ba tong yung tukhang kakatok sa bahay at ano yun, paano gagawin nila?
Well, actually, Amy, ginagawa na yan even last quarter of last year. Nagbabahay-bahay na yung ating mga barangay officials to identify the unvaccinated and convince them to be vaccinated. Apparently, meron talagang matigas yung ulo or because of simple beliefs that they really do not want to have foreign fluids entering their body. So hindi talaga nabakunahan. So right now, the decision was, at least as a national capital region, all the mayors, all 17 of them, have agreed to make it hard for the unvaxxed to move around. No? They can only go out for purposes of procuring essential services and goods. Other than that, they cannot go to malls. So kanina, nag-ikot-ikot ako, medyo mahigpit na yung mga gwardiya sa mga mall. Talaga nagtatanong na yung kanilang mga box card, no? Wala silang box card, hindi na pinapapasok.
Pero Yusek, yung order ni Presidente, bawal lumabas, tsaka kumbaga talagang bawal lumabas ang mga unvaccinated, no?
Well, he was just overemphasizing.
So pwede naman lumabas, parang hindi nga eh.
Pwede lang lumabas just to procure essential goods and services. Si Presidente kasi pag nagsalita yan, very passionate yan eh. So ang ibig niya sabihin na huwag kayong lumabas, ibig sabihin niya, huwag talaga kayong lumabas kung magmomoling lang kayo or mga non-essential yung gagawin. Pero of course, there's a limitation for them to go out, especially to procure essential services. Hanggang dun lang.
So pwede pumunta sa palengke, sa drugstore, pwede ba silang sumakay sa tricycle, for example?
Opo, pwede naman. Again, basta ang purpose malinaw, bibili lang ng mga pangangailangan sa bahay.
Okay. So ano naman ang parusa dun sa mga attempt, sabihin na lang natin, na lumabas, na hindi pa kunado, para lang klaro anong pwedeng gawin ng mga enforcers tsaka mga barangay?
Well, as of the moment, depende yan sa ordinansa na ipapasa ng bawat LGU dito sa NCR because again, we're limiting the immobility of the unvaxxed to the NCR region, no? So inaantay natin yung penalties na pwedeng ipataw doon sa mga lumalabas o nagva-violate ng paglabas na hindi naman sila bakunado. So we're waiting for those ordinances. In the meantime, in the absence of the ordinances, the order is to pauwiin sila, no? Let them go home if they are going out and they're unvaccinated and wala silang mapakita ng vax card, pauwiin lang muna sila.
Pero sir, that also begs the question,
Okay.
how will you send them home? I mean, what legal basis would you have to send anybody home at all? I mean, in the last year kasi we were using RA 11332, if I recall correctly, yung the law on notifiable diseases. But I think since then, that law has been rendered or has been adjudged inoperable in these cases by the DOJ. So
No,
that does leave the question na ano yung pambabala ng mga police at mga enforcer habang wala pa yung ordinansa?
Yeah, may executive order na yan eh. And again, all the mayors have agreed. They can always invoke Section 16 of the Local Government Code, which is the General Welfare Clause. So if the going out of the unvaccinated will create an health hazard, then pwede silang pauwiin. But in the meantime, the absence of an ordinance, they cannot be punished or they cannot be penalized or imprisoned for that matter. In the meantime, invoking Section 16 of the Local Government Code, the local chief executives, through executive orders, in this case, an MMC Council resolution can be invoked para pauwiin at yung mga hindi bakunado na lumalabas.
But sir, that EO or that section of the local government code, does that include the penal clause? I mean, can law enforcers impose penalty or punishment for those who refuse to obey an order based on Section 16?
Hindi po. Again, in the absence of an ordinance, wala talagang penalty. That's why the ordinance is being fast-tracked by each local government unit in the National Capital Region so that a penalty can be imposed for those who violate or the unvaccinated going out and doing all other things other than procuring essential services.
Yusek, may bago pang assignment yung mga pulis, di ba? Inutusan ni Presidente mag-deploy ng mga pulis dun sa mga quarantine hotels. Paano kapag may na-apprehend nga sila na violator, ng gugulo, ayaw sumunod, anong maaasahan ng taong yon? Saan siya dadalhin? Anong gagawin sa kanya? Ibubook ba siya? Meron ba siyang criminal offense na haharapin? Anong maaasahan ng mga ganong klaseng tao?
Oo, kakasuhan yan, Amy. First of all, yung ating mga quarantine hotels, dalawa ang nagbabantay dyan. Yung Philippine Coast Guard and Philippine National Police for that matter. I'm familiar with that because ako yung nagkukumpas niyan na last year. No? Siguro itong quarantine hotel nung nakaraan, itong Berjaya, baka wala lang na-assign kaya hindi napansin itong may lumabas. But pag maghihigpit ulit tayo ngayon, automatically, if they do not follow the quarantine protocols as an arriving ROF, they will be in merong non-cooperation clause yung Republic Act 11332 no sa section 9. So they will be charged with that violation of that provision. Pwede silang ikulong pero of course may bail naman po yan, bailable naman yan. But ang potential liability nila is a penalty of 20,000 to 50,000 or imprisonment between 1 month to 6 months or both, depending on the appreciation of the court.
So yung violator, dadalhin sa presinto ng pulis?
Ibuwok talaga yan kasi kakasuhan.
Pero pwede magpiyansa?
Pwede magpiyansa.
What about the hotel management? Kasama ba silang kakasuhan?
Well, ang hotel, they may be guilty of negligence or non-cooperation. For example, kung lumabas, alam ng hotel at hindi nila na-report kasi it's a protocol that they report these kinds of individuals who do not follow the quarantine protocols, kailangan i-report nila. In the case nitong Poblacion Girl, hindi kasi ni-report. Kung ni-report sana yon, they could have escaped with the penalty. Kasi again, kung naalala nyo, yung sinabi ni Pangulo kagabi, yung coercive force of those in the hotel may not be there. Pero kung nakalabas, dapat ni-report. Kaya nga nilalagay na yung police so that they have the authority to take over the order or the security of the hotel, especially yung quarantine hotels.
Sir, I don't know if this falls
Pero
under...
ano nga ba yung
sige.
liability ng parents doon? I just want to know, bakit pati yung parents kinasuhan?
Ay kasi ano sila, kumbaga accomplice instead na sabihan nila yung anak nila na manatili sa quarantine for X number of days, sila palang namuno maghatid sundo. So they know the policies. Of course, they cannot make any excuse about it. So pwede silang talagang kasuhan.
Okay.
So dapat, pati nga raw yung ilang mga kaparty niya pinapagpaliwanag na raw ngayon.
Kasi kung alam nilang dapat naka-quarantine, Luchi, dapat nire-report.
So dapat malaman din ng mga tao yan, no? na pag may alam sila na hindi dapat hindi dapat lumalabas eh. Nako, away-away ito, galit-galit. Okay,
Wala
pero
walang kaibigan. Walang
Yeah.
kaibigan.
Oo nga.
Walang kamag-anak.
Galit-galit tayo dyan. Okay. Yusek, of course, today, the cases jumped to 10,700, no? At meron pang 8 labs yata na hindi pa nga nakapag-report. Magbabago ba ang mga alert levels sa mga karatig lugar ng NCR? Or are we, meron ba kayong pinaplano ngayon na gagawin ninyo para rin lalong ma-control? Or lockdown na ba ito? I guess yan ang inaabangan ng mga tao. How far will the lockdown go?
Well, we will be meeting tomorrow with the IATF. That's a regular meeting. But 2 nights ago, being part of the sub-technical working group on data analytics, no, kami nagpo-propose ng mga alert levels per LGU. As of last night, 2 nights ago, no, we've already identified 4 LGUs potentially for escalation to alert level 3. 3 of them for alert level 3 and 1 jumping to alert level 4. So since these are LGUs, sabi ko, let's defer the escalation. We will talk first to the LGUs or the local chief executives to tell them of their situation, giving them a chance to improve their COVID-19 case data. But apparently, yung iba doon hindi na mapipigilan, mukhang mag-escalate na by tomorrow. All the others, we're still assisting them to improve their case data, especially in the part of the healthcare utilization rate. Kasi yun ang pinaka-critical sa lahat, that their healthcare system would be able to accommodate potential spikes in the number of COVID-19 cases.
Mm-hmm. Sir, yung subcommittee on data analytics, does it have any projections on the number of cases we may have by next week and by the end of January? For example, yung Okta Research has already adjusted its projections for next week. They're looking at possibly 20,000, but that's Okta. I'm wondering about the IATF. You do have your subcommittee on data analytics, and I assume that you make your own projections.
Yes, there are projections. Ang kasama namin sa sub-technical working group, ang PASTER group. So they are the official technical and consultants that we have for purposes of projections. I think it would be best if the PASTER group through the Department of Health would be the one to announce the projections. Nagpapalabas naman sila ng projections, and that's the reason why we really do not subscribe to Okta. Kasi ang Okta walang, with all due respect, wala silang responsibility or accountability. They may say it's increasing, it will create panic, and they do not take responsibility for those projections. So it's better if you get the projections coming from government. I think the Department of Health will make those pronouncements later and together with the PASTER group.
Yes, sir.
May sinabi rin si Presidente kagabi sa mga religious group sa Catholic Church in particular, na wag na muna daw magprosesyon kahit magmisa. Pero pumayag naman ng mag-virtual feast na lang ng Nazareno ang Quiapo Church sa 9. Pero maraming nagsasabi, yung mga devotees pupunta pa rin daw sila dun sa simbahan kahit sa labas lang. Papayagan niyo ba yon? I know nag-deploy na ng pulis kanina pero malaki yung lugar na yon saan ba sila pwedeng pumunta doon? Basta matanaw lang daw nila yung simbahan, okay na sa kanila.
Tama yun. I think as early as 3 or 4 days ago, wala na yung Black Nazarene tradition procession, no? Yung mga pupunta doon, I think meron na pong protocols, security protocols ang ginawa yung ating PNP in the area. We just hope that it will not be the same as what we've experienced in the past, na kahit sisilip lang, ang dami pa ring tao. So we'll just have to tell the public if for purposes of securing the health status of our of that area na hindi makapanghawa, na huwag nang pumunta. And to minimize, I think magkakaroon naman ng pila yan just in case. So hindi pa nagdi-disclose ang PNP, most probably by tomorrow, they will disclose the security protocols for yung mga gustong sumilip dun sa Nazareno at least sa simbahan.
Magre-virtual daw sila yung church. Paano kung gusto ilabas dun sa ibabaw, for example, para matanaw ng actual? Papayagan ba yun?
Ay hindi po. I think nakapag-usap na po yung ating NTF together with the Quiapo Church na hindi po lagi ilalabas. Kasi po, magkakos ho yan ng gulo. Alam mo naman, ang purpose ng tao pumunta doon, makita. So ipapapasok na lang sa loob and again, everything will be virtual.
Virtual. Okay.
Okay. Sir, let me go back to the quarantine issue. I don't know if this is under your jurisdiction, pero anyway, I'll try it anyway. I'm wondering lang if we've been able to plug all the possible loopholes in the quarantine issue. Kasi, you know, I've seen some posts on Facebook about people who arrived from out of the country. Paglabas ng airport, wala palang sundo ng hotel kung saan sila magka-quarantine dapat. So, nag-grab pa sila papunta sa hotel. So, in other words, nobody seems to be, at least from these posts, nobody seems to be channeling them towards their quarantine facilities or making sure that they get to the quarantine facilities without skipping out. And of course, we have to note that that's the only way for the variants to get in the country from people who are coming in from abroad. So I'm wondering lang if we've been able to plug all the possible loopholes dun sa quarantining issue.
Well, I would think those are just excuses, no? Malinaw kasi yan sa ating task force in the airport led by the DOTR. Malinaw yung kanilang protocol dyan. Pagdating, pupunta kagad sa airport, may susundo yan, and identified naman yung mga returning Filipinos. So those, most probably, those would be excuses. But again, because of those excuses, we're already reviewing, no, making sure that the protocols we approved in the arrival of returning Filipinos are complied with. So, yung ating Department of Transportation, who handles the operations in the airport, nire-review na nila. It's really ongoing because they are part of the sub-technical group on border controls. So it's just simply a review that is complied with. Maaring merong, hindi namin masasabi ng 100%, baka meron lang isa o dalawa na nakakalusot. Pero I would think generally it's complied with by our protocol officers in the airport.
You're saying po, bantay sarado yung mga arrivals. Bantay sarado sila, as soon as they get here to the country, bantay sarado sila hanggang doon sa hotel. The reason I ask that again kasi is, a reporter who covered in Berjaya, the hotel kung saan nakalusot nga si quarantine, si Poblacion Girl, ang sabi raw ng Berjaya sa kanila, by 11 p.m. daw, wala nang bantay doon sa mga floors ang hotel. So parang honesty system na lang na hindi ka lalabas ng kwarto mo at hindi ka sasakay ng elevator and makikihalubilo sa mga tao sa baba at sa tao sa labas.
That's right. Kaya nga, tingin ko, i-review nila yung compliance lang naman. In other words, the protocols themselves are intact, but the compliance of the protocols will have to be reviewed. So ito yung ginagawa nila ngayon. Sama-sama yan, BOQ, DOTR, pati ang Philippine Coast Guard. Kaya nga, kung may Philippine Coast Guard dyan sa hotel, hindi na dapat nangyari yan kasi sisitahin ka agad yan. So, nire-review namin lang itong compliance with the protocols of all government agencies, specifically for returning Filipinos.
Okay.
Yusek, ang madalas tanungin sa amin ng mga tao ay yung protocols cross-border, no? Meaning if you're moving, say, from NCR to outside of NCR, halimbawa Laguna, parang doon lagi nagkakagulo kasi hindi naman yun na-announce sa buong bayan kung ano yung particular protocols for travel by LGU. So, ang question ko sa inyo is, kumakalat na ba yung surge to nearby LGUs, no? Around the NCR? And if so, how can people easily access information as to what the requirements are of the town or the province or the LGU that they're entering? Kasi doon lagi nagkakagulo kung ano bang rules, di ba?
Well, right now, Luchi, 100% for all travelers, they have to get an S-Pass, no? S-Pass.ph. Kukuha sila doon ng mga requirements. Lahat po ng LGU nakalagay doon ang requirements for entry. Apparently, in the last 30 days, they've lifted some of their requirements because gumaan na nga yung sitwasyon, nag-alert level 2. I would think some of the LGs will have to put back additional requirement before entry. At least for those coming from the NCR, kasi ang NCR ngayon ang pinaka-epicenter ulit. In the cases yesterday, 70% of the 5,400 new cases came from the National Capital Region. So kung hindi mo i-contain ng NCR at lumalabas pa rin sila, maaring carrier sila. So that's why it's important that if you're coming from NCR, dapat bakunado ka. and there's a special emphasis on vaccinated individuals right now to be allowed to move. Kaya nga meron ng restriction yung mga unvaccinated. As of the moment, based again on data that was shown to us 2 nights ago, no, sa Subtechnical Working Group on Data Analytics, so far ang tumataas si NCR, Calabarzon, and Region 3, yung magkakatabing yon. All the rest, while the cases are increasing, their average daily attack rate, ito yung number of individuals na mahahawaan for every 100,000 in population. The standard there is 7. In other words, 1 to 7 na ADAR, you are moderate risk. Below 1, low risk, and above 7, high risk na yon. So far, karamihan ng mga probinsya nasa between 1 to 7, so naka-moderate risk. Meron pang ibang mga region na below 1. I think Region 5 is naka-below 1 pa siya ngayon. Ano? Pero ang NCR nasa 8.7 na as of yesterday, kaya nga high risk na siya. And considering that its two-week growth rate has grown to 1,100%. Sa 2-week growth rate yan, para maintindihan din natin, ang moderate is between 1 to 200% growth. Pag lumampas ka ng 200% 2-week growth rate, high risk na rin yan. Kaya high risk na talaga ang NCR.
Okay. Interior Undersecretary Epimaco Densing III. Sir, maraming salamat for joining us tonight at ingat po parati.
Thank you, Ed,
Thank you, sir.
Lucy, and Amy. Good evening and take care.
Good evening po. We will just go into a break, so please stay with us. Welcome back to Chiefs on One News, and now joining us is Pateros Mayor Miguel Ponce III. Mayor Ponce, magandang gabi po, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening po. Thank you for joining us. Mayor, we understand na pagkasunduan po ng Metro Manila Council mayors na higpitan o tighten the screws against those who are unvaccinated who may want to move around Metro Manila. Tell us about your experience in in Pateros po. How are you doing this? How's the implementation of that?
Actually, an report regarding implementing ang aming pinagkasundan sa Metro Manila Council. And just today, isang Guniang Bayan has called for a special session at naayos na rin po ang aming ordinansa rito. No? Palagi ko, hindi naman po masyadong magiging problema sa amin yan. Wala kaming na-experience pang malaking problema dahil napakataas na rin ang aming vaccination po rito. No? Katulad din tayo ng San Juan, na halos lahat po ng tao ay bakunado na rin. Sa ngayon ay talagang ang binibilisan namin ay yung pagbibigay ng booster, ano? Para talagang masiguro natin na lahat ay mabibigyan din ng booster.
Okay, so wala kayong masyadong unvaccinated. Yung mga pato sa Pateros. Sorry.
Pero low risk kayo, no, Mayor? Low risk pa rin kayo as of now.
Sabay na rin kami sa high risk ngayon dahil alam niyo po, halos buong buwan ng Disyembre, wala kaming COVID. Zero COVID kami for 3 weeks. Ngayon,
So
nag-start
pati kayo na ano na.
Yeah,
Okay.
December 27, nag-start unti-unti. Ngayon may 63 kami. Pero mukhang maraming papasok bukas na baka mag-100 plus na kami no, ng positive. Kaya mataas na rin po. Kaya walang
Paano
bakuna
yung
sa
ano
amin.
nyo?
Mga 5-11, ito po yung mga ages 5 to 11 ang talagang walang bakuna. Ngayon, yung konti na lang po ang talagang binabakunahan natin at 12 to 17. At meron mangilan-ngilan na pinipilit pa po tayo mga senior citizens.
That's good to hear.
Mayor, yung ano ninyo, Mayor, yung testing ninyo, kasi merong mga proposal ngayon na bigyan daw ng libreng testing, lalo na yung mga mahihirap. At saka ang iniisip yata, dahil katakot-takot na utang ng national government, ibigay sa local government yung burden, yung financial burden nun. Kaya ba yon ng mga local government?
Saka yun po ay libre lahat ang testing namin. Ano? Hindi naman kami tumigil ng pagbibigay na binibigyan din kami ng mga free test kits. Ano po? At lahat naman ng mga test kits na ginagamit natin ay diretso naman sa PRC na alam naman natin po na sinasagot ng PhilHealth. Kaya hanggang sa ngayon, libre pa po ang ibinibigay naming testing except for kung kakailanganin natin for leisure purposes. Katulad nga po noon na minsan nire-require nila na kailangan naka-RT-PCR test ka o may result ka na negative bago ka makapunta sa mga beaches. Ano? Pero sa ngayon, dahil wala na pong nire-require na ganyan, medyo maluwag din. Maganda lang kung ibabalik nila. Pero pagdating po sa pag may mga simptoma, kailangan sa trabaho, kailangan sa mga hospitals, libre po lahat yan, binibigay sa amin. No? Binibigay po namin sa mga kababayan.
Kamusta naman po yung contact tracing? Kasi ang balita namin DILG nagka-problema doon sa renewal ng contract ng contact tracers ng DILG. At ang sabi ni Mayor Magalong, baka LG muna ang magte-take up ng slack o yung hindi pagbayad doon sa mga contact tracers ng DILG. So baka po yung kamusta yung sa inyo po? Do you have your own set of contact tracers sa Pateros and how does that go?
Opo. Meron po kami no na ipinrovide ng DOLE at saka ng DILG no. Nung huling meeting naman namin nila Mayor Francis ng Metro Manila Council, we were assured by the DOLE and the DILG that they will renew the contract. Pero ngayon po wala pang renewal, inabsorb muna namin sila. Kami muna ang nagpapasweldo. Once na dumating yung renewal, ipapasa uli namin sa DOLE at sa DILG ito.
Okay.
So wala pong nawala. Ina-absorb namin sila ngayon.
Okay, that's good.
Mayor, ang sinasabi nga po yung Omicron ay mild lang, di ba? At sinasabi nyo na karamihan ng mga taga-Pateros bakunado na. So I would imagine na okay ang healthcare situation nyo ngayon doon, yung hospital capacity nyo. Okay naman, kahit na tumataas ang kaso, kumusta ho yun?
Wala po tayong problema ngayon pagdating sa hospitalization. Alam nyo, hindi po katulad nung dati. Dati kasi pag tumataas po ang bilang ng positive, pipila kami sa one hospital command, hindi kami natutulog, marami kaming inaalalayang kababayan para humanap na ng hospital. Ngayon, mataas man ang COVID natin, nawala po lahat yung mga problemang yan. Dahil nga, siguro po, ang tingin namin dito, mga 98% to 99% ay asymptomatic to mild symptoms lamang. Kaya nawala po lahat yung problemang yan. Doon napupuno na naman ang isolation facilities natin because we have no other choice but to bring them to the isolation facility at i-isolate sila. Pero wala pong nagiging serious o critical sa kanila kahit isa. Kaya maganda naman po ang nagiging resulta kahit may mga positive.
Mayor,
Mataas naman ang testing. Kasi yung testing din na kailangan talagang bantayan, di ba? Para malaman nga kung... So yung testing nyo naman, nagdadagsa ba mga tao? Nararamdaman nyo ba yun na mas maraming nagpapatest ngayon?
Opo, ngayon po, dagsa talaga. No? Kasi yung pong number ng tinetest natin, sumusunod po yan sa number ng positive. Dahil mas marami kayong positive, mas marami kayong i-contact trace. So yan po ay dumadami rin. Ngayon ay kanina napakahaba talaga ng pila sa aming contact tracing. Ano? Ngayon, ang tinrace po namin ay kulang-kulang 400. Ano? The other day, ang tinest po namin ay kulang-kulang 300. So, kasi nga, tumataas din po ang bilang ng positive. Pero natutugunan pa naman po natin ito at tingin ko naman po ay everything is still under control.
Hindi naman kayo naubusan ng paracetamol dyan. O pati ba kayo nag-shortage na?
Naubusan na rin po. Walang mabili sa Mercury. No? Mga paracetamol, naubusan na rin po.
So talagang
Okay.
NCR-wide.
Mayor, nag-issue daw kayo ng order na ipigilan ng mga activities related to the traslasyon. Pero marami nagsasabi, mga tao, itutuloy pa rin nila. Basta may gagawin sila just to observe, but just to celebrate the feast. Ano po yung gagawin nyo kung hindi sumunod at pagkaroon pa rin dyan ng mga konting activities related to the Feast of the Nazareno?
I just issued an executive order today na sinususpend natin ang lahat ng traslasyon activities dahil hindi naman po sa Quiapo lang ginagawa yan. All over ginagawa rin yan. Sa amin, marami po nagaganyan. So, nakipag-ugnayan na rin po ako simbahan. Ang in-encourage po namin at nirekomenda namin ay mga masses na lang ang gawin. At simbahan na lang ang mag-handle po nito. Dito po sa bayan namin, hindi po pwedeng hindi susunod. Talagang ikukulong ko po sila pag hindi po sila sumunod. Kaya
nyo masses?
I'm confident na susunod po sila. Hindi po pwedeng hindi.
Pwedeng pumunta sa misa, sa church o virtual mass yan?
Pwede pong pumunta sila sa misa basta susundin pa rin nila yung requirement ng alert level 3. Kung halimbawa 30% capacity lamang, everybody fully vaccinated at may social distancing, ma-observe pa rin ang minimum health standard, yun po yung mga patakaran natin dito.
Okay.
So traslasyon lang ang pinagbawal. Pero pwede pa magmisa. Yun naman
Yung
pala. At least dyan. Baka kayo sa Indian dahil sa Quiapo talagang pati misa online na raw baka kayong punta.
Iba ang sitwasyon ng Quiapo. Pero sa amin naman, even during the simbang gabi ay nakita naman po natin kung na maayos po na naayos sa katuparan nito at na naidaos natin itong mga pagdiriwang na simbahan. Kaya tiwala rin kami na pagdating po sa traslasyon, ay magagawa din natin ito.
Hindi kayo nag-aalala kasi yung simbang gabi, that was before Omicron arrived in the Philippines. Pero ngayon, araw-araw nagdodoble yung mga kaso natin.
Pero maayos din po kasi pinagbawal ko lahat ng prosesyon. Wala po ako binigyan kasi marami na po nag-apply ng permit. Pero lahat po, dinina ito. So sinasabi ko sa kanila, pwede nyo dalhin yung inyong black Nazarene, sakay yung sakyan, dalhin yung simbahan, yung misahan doon, pero walang entourage, walang kahit, I deny even the motorcycle riders na sasama. Dinay po natin lahat ito. Kaya confident naman po ako na mababantayan natin ito. Nakipag-ugnayan na rin po tayo sa PNP na talagang babantayan po namin. Bilang naman namin at identified po naman namin yung lahat ng mga grupo na gumagawa nito. Kaya ito po'y kaya natin bantayan.
Okay. Maraming salamat po, Pateros Mayor Miguel Ike Ponce III. Thank you for joining us tonight at ingat po parate.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Ike.
Mag-ingat po tayo.
Salamat po.
Good evening po sa inyo lahat.
And now joining us si San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora. Good evening, Mayor Zamora. Welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening,
Yes,
Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening everyone. Namimiss ko na yung actual live interview natin sa studio. Akala ko itong 2022 pwede na ulit.
Malay mo,
Oo nga
malay mo pagkatapos ng surge, balik studio na tayo kung let's
God
see.
willing, hopefully.
Bako na
Kung
naman kami,
tama
Mayor.
ang projection ng ibang mga expert, sabi, mukhang matatapos na raw ang pandemic. Nax. Mag-endemicize na raw.
Grabe naman, grabe yung
Let's
foresight naman yan. Packet pa lang yung numbers natin, ending na iniisip niyo.
No, because that's what they're saying.
Yes,
because
yes.
nga of this surge and the type of variant that it is, no?
Yeah, what
Baka
goes
nga
up
raw
has to come down.
matapos na. Yeah.
Si Father Quiapo.
Everything has an end. Okay.
Mayor, kayo po, well, we asked the same question of the Pateros Mayor Ike Ponce. We understand yung MMC nga, the Metro Manila Council mayors, agreed almost unanimously or unanimously na higpitan yung patakaran pagdating sa mga hindi bakunado. Kamusta po sa inyong syudad?
That's correct. Nung Sunday, nagkaroon nga kami ng pagpupulong and everyone agreed. All the members of the Metro Manila Council, everyone agreed to pass the resolution urging each LGU to enact ordinances. In fact, right the next day, nagpatawag na ako ng special session at immediately, pinasa naman to ng aming San Juan City Council at effective immediately din yung aming ordinansa. Kung kaya't simula kahapon ay in effect na po ang aming local ordinance which regulates the movement of those who are unvaccinated. At nakita naman natin ang epekto nito sa unang araw pa lamang. In fact, I had already met with the heads of the big malls, no? Yung Greener Shopping Center, yung Santolan Town Plaza. At sinabi ko sa kanila that we will need their support. Kinakailangan mismong yung mga guards nila, yung mga manager ng mga restaurants, ng mga stores, sila mismo should police their customers, because if we find out that they are allowing unvaccinated individuals to enter their establishments, pwede namin silang ipasara. Because we cannot guard one-on-one every customer that will enter. The establishments have a big responsibility in helping us. Dahil sila rin naman po ang merong mga gwardiya na nagpapapasok, dapat mismo sa entrance pa lang ng mall ay meron na tayong maayos na sistema ng pag-check ng mga vaccine cards.
So yun yung ordinance
yun ang
penalty, no? Yun ang penalty, pwede kang isara, pwede kang suspindihin yung permit. Ano pa yung ibang penalties under your ordinance?
Actually, Amy, no, yung ordinances kasi namin naka-anchor dito sa ating resolution. So para hindi magkaroon ng confusion na iba yung sa San Juan, iba yung sa Quezon City, iba yung sa Makati, meron kaming guidance from the actual resolution. So we just adopted the MMC resolution so that it will not be confusing for people. Ano ba ang penalty? Madalas tinatanong. Again, we hinge dito sa RA 11332. Napanood ko yung portion ng interview nyo kanina sa mga naunang panauhin natin. At ganoon din po ang ginagawa natin sa San Juan. If there will be any violators, kapag sila po ay file ng kaso sa mga korte, the courts will determine ano ba ang karampatang multa para sa kanila. No? Pero ako, I always tell this to people, no? Huwag na natin paabutin sa puntong magkakasuhan pa at lahat. No? Magbabakuna na lang tayo. No? Wala dapat katakutan sa bakuna. No? Here in San Juan, we have vaccinated 246% of our target population. That is why I don't see this as a problem. Wow. Dahil napakalaking porsyento ng aming mga mamamayan po ay bakunado na. That is also why, in spite of having 355 active cases at this point, no, coming from just 12 noong December 27, coming from just 5 noong December 14, 98.8% of them are mild to asymptomatic only. No? Yung natitirang 1.2%, ito ay moderate to severe. Wala ho kaming critical cases. And I attribute this to the fact that our vaccination rate is very high. So ito nga yung sinasabi ko sa ating mga mamamayan. Huwag ninyong iisipin na, nabakunahan na ako, nagka-COVID ako, sayang naman yung bakuna ko. Dapat ang sinasabi natin sa sarili natin, buti na lang bakunado ko. Dahil kung ako magka-COVID, nananatili akong mild to asymptomatic.
Yeah. Well, yun nga tatanong ko how do you keep people from feeling complacent given na, well, ang ganda-ganda ng numbers, mild lang naman pala, para ka lang nagkaka-flu, plus bakunado naman kami. So how do you keep them from still being on their toes when it comes to COVID?
Lucy, it's really mind-setting. No? From the start, I have really acted as a vaccine ambassador. In fact, when vaccination started last March, nag-volunteer nga ako noon. Sinulatan ko pa noon si Secretary Duque na hayaan ang mga mayors na isama doon sa first batch of vaccinees. Basically to set an example to our constituents na walang dapat katakutan, ito ay nagbibigay ng protection. So we have created a mindset here in San Juan regarding the importance of vaccination. That is why during the first day of the year, first vaccination day, January 3, kung saan ako mismo ay nagpa-booster din, punong-puno ho ang aming vaccination center without having to exert any effort really to invite them to come. Kumbaga kusang loob silang nagpapa-booster dahil naintindihan nila anong importansya. No? Everyone experienced the exponential increase starting December 27. Double, triple, daily, no? Talagang napakataas. At naintindihan ng tao yung importansya ng bakuna. It's really a matter of informing them, educating them.
Okay, in the meantime, there are so many businesses, MSMEs also, in San Juan, no? And they're now having to grapple with the reality na bagsak na naman ang negosyo. Ano po ang mga suportang naiisip nyo rin na ibigay para hindi rin sila tuluyang magsara or malugi? Kasi ayan na naman yung ating ginagawang pagbabalanse ng ekonomiya at negosyo at kabuhayan at saka ng kalusugan.
Lucy, ito ay allow me to share. No? I also mentioned this during one of my previous interviews. If you will analyze, sige, bawal ngayon yung hindi bakunado. Dito sa San Juan, ilang porsyento ba ang hindi bakunado? Napakaliit na lang. So does it really affect yung commerce? No? I would like to say not so much because you are only talking about a very small percentage. Again, no? San Juan has an additional 20% in operational capacity at ito ay dahil sa aming napakataas na vaccination rate. So ito yung incentive na binibigay po sa iba't ibang LGUs. Once you reach a certain level of vaccination, on top of what is allowed, may plus 20% pa. So halimbawa ngayon, alert level 3, sa isang indoor restaurant, 30% lamang ang pwede. Ngunit may plus 20% po kami dahil mataas ang aming vaccination rate. So that's 50% already. Aside from that, if the establishment has a safety seal issued by the local government, another plus 10%. Yan. So 60% ka pa rin. Yan ang isa sa mga resulta ng mataas na vaccination na naintindihan ng aming mga negosyante rito. That is why in the end, no, na-realize sila, buti na lang, maaga tayo nagpabakuna. There was a time when businesses were closed. Anong ginawa namin? Nag-focus kami on vaccinating their employees para pagdating ng panahon na magbukas na muli, no, hindi na doon pa lang maghahabol. And it's working well for us. We hope and pray that indeed the projections are correct na since mabilis ang pagtaas ay mabilis din ang pagtigil. No? But what I'm seeing now is something that I've never seen before. Yung ganito kabilis na pagdoble o triple araw-araw, hindi ko ito nakita in the last 1 year and 10 months. But again, what is the bright side? Ang dami hong mild to asymptomatic lamang. Our hospital, or our public hospital, San Juan Medical Center, is only 50% full. I spoke to Cardinal Santos Medical Center earlier, ganun din. No? Hindi ganun karami ang nandun sa aming COVID area. Yes, specific to COVID, no? Hindi ganun karami. That means people remain to be mild to asymptomatic. And that is the characteristic of the Omicron variant. No? Although the DOH has not categorically said the Omicron ito, but if you look at the characteristics and you compare to that of other countries that experience this, it seems to be Omicron.
Mayor, your city has a very high a transient population. Kanina sabi niyo, pati yung mga employees binakunahan. Kumusta yung vaccination among that transients? Lalo yung mga commercial centers niyo, parang ang dami-daming tao lagi dyan. Kumusta yung vaccination sa yung mga ganong commercial areas?
Tuloy-tuloy lang po tayo. In fact, marami ho sa kanila natapos na natin long time ago. But remember, lahat ng nabakunahan dati will need to get a booster. That is why we are focusing now on administering the booster shots. Dati, 6 months from second dose. Ngayon, 3 months na lang. So, all of a sudden, ang dami mo kailangan i-booster. Kaya dito ho tayo nakafocus. That's why nagpa-booster din po ako eh. Not just for my own protection, not for the protection of the people around me, but again, to encourage people to get a booster shot. No? It's really about leading the way. Kailangan si Mayor magpabakuna upang ako may kredibilidad na sabihin, magpabakuna kayo, magpa-booster kayo. Kung hindi ako naka-booster, sino maniniwala sa akin? Bakit, Mayor, hindi pa naman kayo nagpapa-booster? So it's a way really of communicating the message to people. And I believe the people of San Juan understand its importance. And that is why we were very close to reaching zero already. No? We were just 5 cases away from zero before Christmas.
Well, Mayor, your
Anong
city is...
pakiramdam nun, Mayor? Ako, curious nga ako eh. Anong pakiramdam nun na bumaba na kami sa 5 eh, tapos biglang ngayon nasa 300 na naman kami. How does that feel? And how is it different from your experience before, of course, no, in the past surges? Are you relieved or are you still on tenterhook somehow.
Luchi, pinagdaanan na namin to before. No? We have experienced several surges in the past. We have brought them down to a very low number several times also. Meaning, ako ba natatakot? Ako ba naninibago? Honestly, not really, because we have been through this before. So, itong surge na ito is something that we've experienced. Although, ang sabi ko ang kaibahan, no? Ang bilis nung ngayon. Pero mostly mild to asymptomatic din naman. So we really have to adapt to the situation. Again, sayang, napakalapit na natin sa zero, but that is the reality. Buti nga, honestly, no? Buti nga nakapag-celebrate tayo ng Pasko. Sa ibang bansa, hindi sila nakapag-celebrate ng Pasko dahil the Omicron variant was spreading early December. Fortunately for us, we were able to experience Christmas. Yung December 31 lang, at 5 p.m., I canceled our fireworks display because it has been 3 days there, no? 3 days ng sunod-sunod ang pagtaas ng mga kaso, and I felt I had to make a decision. So, kinakailangan kasi as a mayor, you have to be very decisive. Kanina nga po, tinatanong ni si Mayor Ponce about yung mga activities sa Nazareno. Ako po ay maglalabas sila ng executive order ko bukas, doing the same thing, which is suspending first all Nazareno-related activities. Nung kinausap ko nga po ang aming parish priest sa St. John the Baptist, nung binanggit ko sa kanyang aking plano, ang sabi niya sa akin, Mayor, nauna na po ako sa inyo. Sinara ko na ang simbahan. So kahit ang ating kaparian, alam na nila ang dapat gawin. Without me having to tell them, they already had closed the church to any activities. That is a sign that they understand the situation. They know how to adapt. They know what to do. So again, sa mga deboto ng Nazareno, ako po yung humingi ng inyong pag-intindi. Isipin natin ito'y para sa kaligtasan at kalusugan natin. Ayaw nating hayaan na tumaas pang bilang ng mga kaso natin. Lalo na ngayon, kita nyo, doble o triple ang pagtaas araw-araw.
Sir, what about contact tracing? We also asked this of Mayor Ponce. We understand from the DILG na hindi na-renew kaagad yung contract for contact tracers of the DILG, and they're hoping to pass it off to the LGUs. Kamusta po from your end? How are the contact tracers doing from the side of the San Juan?
Ed, mula nung interview nyo kay Yusek Densing hanggang kay Mayor Ike, nandito na ako. At napanood ko ang lahat ng mga sagot po nila. No? Tama naman lahat ng sinasabi nila. Yes, we were informed that the contact tracers will be renewed. No? Although not yet now, but we are using our local contact tracers. Sino to mga to? Yung mga taga-city health office namin, yung mga na-train namin ng mga pulis, mga bombero. No? Tandaan niyo po, it's been 1 year and 10 months already. So, mga very routinary na ho to sa amin. Parang kahit nakapikit, alam na ho namin ang gagawin because we've been doing it every day. Malaking tulong pag may additional funding, of course. But if this will come later on, we are ready to use our local funds. Napaka-importante ng contact tracing. Kanina, tinanong nyo rin nga, gaano karami nagpapatest. Naku, kanina, napakarami nagpapatest. Two things, no? Again, correct yung sinabi ni Mayor Ponce. Dahil maraming nagpa-positive, marami kang contact trace. Pangalawa, yung mga nakakaramdam ng sintomas on their own, nagre-request na sila ng swab test. So again, it goes to show that people understand what has to be done. Hindi mo na kailangan ituro dahil naintindihan na nila kung ano mga dapat gawin.
Okay.
Meron bang libreng testing sa San Juan?
Ay, libre po tayo lahat ng testing natin. We never charge
Uy,
for...
buti pa dyan.
Pati mayayaman.
Buti pa kayo.
Yan.
Oo nga, ang dami na pwede magbayad dyan.
Wala ho kaming sinisingil sa mga nagpapatest po rito. From the start up to now, we never charged a single person for any swab test. At saka dito po, puro swab test ang ginagamit namin. Puro PCR test. It's the...
Oh, really? Wow.
It's the gold standard of testing. So, we have experienced kasi several times, even nung simula, yung iba-ibang mga rapid test.
Kasi si Ed, Mayor, DIY lang yan eh. 180 pesos pa, mura-mura.
Online, ordered online.
Kaya yabang yan.
Try testing yourself 5 times. Now, you will get siguro 3 positive, 2 negative. No? In the end, you will rely on the PCR swab test.
Yes.
So, babalik at babalik ka rin talaga doon para makakuha ng confirmatory results. No? So, let's not confuse ourselves. Minsan, alam mo, honestly, nakakaawa yung iba. No? Nag-positive halimbawa sa antigen, yung pala mali. Kaya lang, what can you do? Nag-positive na, hindi mo na pwedeng bawiin yun. Protocols will dictate that if it is a DOH accredited kit and you test positive, you have to follow the results. Kaya lang, in truth and in fact, hindi ho ganun ka-accurate yung mga rapid test. Kailangan swab test talaga.
Okay. San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora, maraming salamat, Mayor, for joining us tonight at ingat po parati.
Thank you, Mayor.
also.
Thank you,
From your
Mayor.
honorary
Happy New Year.
residents.
Oo nga.
Ay, lipat na kayo. Welcome na welcome kayo dito. Pati hindi ka kasaluan.
Mahal ang ano, bahay at lupa dyan eh.
Yun lang. Okay. That'll be
Ingat
all
po
for
kayo,
this.
Thank you.
Sige po, salamat po, Mayor. That'll be all for this
Thank you,
midweek
sir.
edition of the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Now, before we go, reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
And I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5, and we are One News.